We'll be learning the Sicha from Parshas Beshallach and Chelek Yirav Likkutei Sichos, the first Sicha. We won't be learning it inside and perhaps skipping around a bit and give the main points. Obviously, we won't be able to give all the Reichkeit from all of the Mefarshim and the footnotes in general to keep the main idea of the Sicha. The Sicha, as we mentioned, in the Chelek Yirav, so it's the first Sicha. It's from the Rashi and the Pasuk in Shemes Yudalet, Pasuk Yud by Yitzaku. You can see here it was printed in Tovshin Likkutei when the Likkutei Sichos came out. So first we'll learn the pasuk with the Rashi. So when the Yidden came to the Yam Suf and Parah chased after him with all of his army, he says, "Parah hikri v'yisu b'nei Yisrael seineim." The Yidden lifted up their eyes, v'hinei Mitzrayim nasei achreiim. They saw that the Mitzrayim were chasing after them, v'yiru ma'ed, and they were very afraid. V'yitzaku b'nei Yisrael el Hashem. And the Jewish people screamed out to Hashem. So you see over here Rashi v'yitzaku on the left-hand side, Tovsu umnus avesom, that they grasped the profession, so to speak, of their forefathers, meaning Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Where do we see that this idea of tefillah was by the Aves? Avram hu Eimer says, Elamakam asher amad sham, that after the destruction of Stem, that Avram went back to the place that he was originally standing when he was speaking to Hashem, which means tefillah. Yitzchak lasuach basada. The Yitzchak went out to speak in the field, and Rashi says over there also that Sichos lashon tefillah. B'Yaakov v'yivka b'makim. And Rashi also explains over there that it refers to the idea of tefillah. So the Rebbe asked a number of questions on this Rashi. As far as in general, when Rashi says something, as all the Mefarshi Rashi point out, he doesn't comment every place there's a Maimer Chazal. It has to be a question on the pasuk, that the Ben Chamish Lemikra is unable to go further because he doesn't understand what it says in the pasuk. And when he asks the question, the Rashi answers his question. So over here, what's the problem? The Yidden saw the Mitzrim, Vayiru Ma'ed, the pasuk says they were afraid. It's obviously Vayitzuk b'nei Yisrael, Hashem, so he cried out to Hashem. What's difficult to understand? That they davened to Hashem when they saw the Mitzrim chasing after them. That's question number one. Another question, if the word Vayitzaku is not clear, then Rashi earlier in Parsha Shmeis, Perek Beis, Pasuk of Gimel, it says also Vayizaku. Rashi doesn't explain. It's obvious. The Ben Chamish Lemikra already knows the translation. This means tefillah. And Rashi didn't explain it over there. So why does he explain it over here? It's also unusual expression Rashi uses, umonis, or umnis. Avesim, their profession. We're not talking about a profession. If anything, their profession was reyatzain. The Aves were shepherds. So why does Rashi say that tefillah is their umnus? And plus, when we look at the psukim regarding the Aves, so it doesn't say explicitly in the pasuk alamakam sherom atsham. On the contrary, the question is how you see in Pshuto Shemikra that it means tefillah. The Gemara darshans it means tefillah. But in any case, it's clear that Rashi learns that it means tefillah. And Yitzchak goes l'suach basada needs a pirush, and so to vayifkam b'makom it's not so clear it's talking about tefillah. And we have cases where all the Avis very clearly daven Hashem. We see the whole section before this pasuk in regarding Avram that he was davening Hashem to save the people of Stem, at least the tzaddikim. And Yitzchak we see that he davened Vayatar, that he davened that Rivka should become pregnant, to have a child, and Yankov Avinu davened that he should be saved from Esav. Very clear cases of tefillah that we see earlier in Chumash, many cases that's obviously the Avis daven. So why does Rashi pick these cases which are not so clear? Out of all the cases he could have picked, why did he pick these? There's another general question which has to do with the entire parsha. When you look at it in the context of the psukim, becomes clear. Over here, we see Targum Onkelos over there. He says, "Uzeiku b'nei Yisrael kodem Hashem." The Ramban has a different version of the Targum, and he brings down the Targum saying that the Yidden complained to Hashem, and that explains the whole hemshech psukim. So when you look over here at the psukim, so here's our pasuk Yud, Parah hikriv v'yitzuk b'nei Yisrael Hashem, and we see over here that the Bnei Yisrael were clearly believers in Hashem. They're davening in Hashem. Why would they daven to Hashem if they don't believe in Him? But then you look at pasuk Yud Aleph, Hayim el Meisha Mibli Ein Kvarim b'Mitzrayim L'Kachtanu Lamus B'Midbar. There's not enough graves in Egypt. You had to take us out over here. And in Pasuk Yud Beis, they continue, Kitev lanu avodas Mitzrayim u'museina ba'midbar, better than dying in the desert. Better we would have stayed in Mitzrayim than coming over here. So we see that there's some lack of clarity here. Here, are they davening to Hashem? They believe in Hashem, that Hashem's going to save them, but they're rebelling. And Pasuk Yud Aleph and Yud Beis looks like they're rebelling. So the Targum, as the Ramban brings it down, explains that the Vayitzaku over here is not referring to them davening to Hashem. It's they're complaining to Hashem. Loshen Tarumas, the Ramban brings down. The Ramban. So that would solve the problem, but it's clear that Rashi does not learn like that. Rashi doesn't hint to that at all. Rashi could have said that very simply, and he didn't. So the question is an additional question. Not only does the Rebbe Sheil that Pirush, but then the question is, how does Rashi learn this whole inyan? It's a subject for all of them of Farshim. And the Rebbe quotes later on, also from the Ramban, of course, from other Mefarshim as well, but the Ramban brings a number of different answers. One answer the Ramban gives, and it seems that he would learn that's Pshat in the Mechilta. It's all discussion. Where does Rashi get his Pirush from? It's from the Mechilta, Tanchuma. There was a fascinating discussion about that in the Haaretz. In any case, that he seems to learn that in this case, that the Yidden changed their mind. That they originally, Vayitzaku b'nei Yisrael Hashem, that they cried out to Hashem, and then they saw they weren't answered. So then it came Pasuk Yud Aleph, and then they changed their minds. They saw that the Mitzrayim are not going away in spite of the fact that they davened. So then they changed their mind. But Rashi doesn't hint to that either. So it doesn't seem that Rashi holds from that as well. So too the Ramban brings another Pirush that it's two different groups of people. Kitas. We learn in the Medrash that there were four different groups, but this is two different groups. There were those that davened to Hashem, and there were those that rebelled and wanted to go back to Mitzrayim. The Ramban brings such a Pirush. But again, Rashi, although Elu Divr Elokim Chaim, and these are certainly Pirushim which are Al Pitera, but when we're learning Pshuto Shemikra, Rashi tells you only what the Ben Chomer Shel Mikra needs to get by in Pshuto Shemikra, and Rashi does not allude to any of these Tirutzim. So although they are ways of coming out, but the Rebbe Mechadish, a completely different Pirush. Well, just to summarize, I have a chart. So you can see the four different Pirushim. So you hear the left-hand column is the Pasuk Yud Aleph Yud Beis, when they said Hamiblei En Kvarim B'Mitzrayim, and to the second from the left is the Pasuk Vayitzaku, which is our Pasuk over here, Pasuk Yud. The question: did the Yidden believe, or did they not believe when they said this? They had Emunah in Hashem, and they didn't have Emunah in Hashem. So according to the Targum, like the Ramban brings down, is Loshen Tarumas Vayitzaku. So therefore, they didn't believe at the beginning. So at least the Psukim fit together. They didn't believe at the beginning. They didn't believe, not in Pasuk Yud, not in Pasuk Yud Aleph. And further, the Ramban gives one Pirush. There are different kitas, different groups. So some groups believed and some groups didn't believe. So the Vayitzaku was talking about the groups that believed, and the Hamebli and Kvarim Mitzrayim is talking about those that didn't believe. The other Teretz of the Ramban, that there was a change. The first they believed in Hashem, they davened Hashem, but then when it didn't work out, then Le'aminu, then they didn't believe. The Rebbe brings a whole different Pirush over here. The Rebbe, Hayron Nifla, not only how to learn this section in the Chumash, but B'chlal how to look at another human being and another Yid B'frat. The Rebbe brings down the Gemara on Bava Basra when it's talking about Eiv, that it says, Ein Adam Nitvas B'shas Tzairei, that when a person is experiencing pain, then you cannot judge what he says. Sometimes a person expresses something out of his pain and his bad experience, and he doesn't really mean it. It's an external expression about what's really going inside. So over here, the Yidden, they believe when they said Vayitzaku. They believe and they davened Hashem. They said later on, Ein Kvarim B'Mitzrayim. So that's an external thing. That's Davar Chitzaini. That's not the essence of what a Yid is all about. So everything fits according to this Pirush. The question is, where do you see it? In Pshuto Shemikra, the Rebbe brings, in the footnote 23 in particular, in the Penim Rose footnote 23, many proofs for this. So when you look later on, the emphasis is it's at the end of this whole section that you see Pasuk Tezvav, the last Pasuk, Vayemer Hashem el Meisha Matitzek Elai Dabar B'nei Yisrael V'Yiso. The Yidden should go. So what it would say over here, you can see Dabar B'nei Yisrael V'Yiso. Rashi says, Ein lahem ela lisa sheina yam mein b'bifneim. The yam is not standing in front of them. It's not an obstacle. Kadai zchus aviseim v'heim v'hamuna she'eminu bi v'yotzu. The emunah that they had in me, they left when they left Mitzrayim, Likrei lehem hayam. So we see very clear that the Yidden had emunah, and this is all in the emunah that they had already in the past, the emunah. And what's the other psukim earlier in Perek Dalet pasuk lamed al v'yamin ha'am? It says vayiktu v'ishtachavu in Perek Chav Yud Beis pasuk Chav Zayin. It says when Hashem gave them the mitzvah korban Pesach, it says vayikad ha'am v'ishtachavu. Rashi says vayikad ha'am b'suras hagula bias haaretz b'suras habonim shiyulem. They believed and they bowed down to Hashem. And the same Perek pasuk lamed tes, it says that the Yidden left and they had to hurry up because they had no time to let the dough rise. And they had no food for the road. So Rashi said that these extra words come to teach you their praise. How can we go out to the desert without any food? They went out and they had faith. So we see in Pshutel Shemikrit that the Yidden had faith beforehand and they had faith afterwards. Brings down the positive like the Chachar Bamidbar, Beres Leizuruah, that the Yidden had emunah the whole time. We see also, I didn't see that the Rebbe brought down this pasuk, but it says later on, Moshe was stricken. Heim lo yaminu bir, Moshe Rabbeinu said, and Hashem said, "You're saying Lashon Hara, my people. You say they're not going to believe. Of course they're going to believe. The Yidden are believers." So from all of these psukim, we see on Derech Apshat, in Pshuta Shemikrit, that the Yidden did believe. Why are they saying Mabilti? That we don't have enough grapes in Mitzrayim, so that the Rebbe explains you cannot take that literally, that they were in great pain, they had this huge Egyptian army after them, so they believed. So the Rebbe explained then as follows. What is Rashi's question when he's looking at these psukim? That it's manavshach. We have over here when you get the pasuk, even before you get to the contradiction, it says Vayitzuko b'nei Yisrael Hashem. So what are they crying out to Hashem for? Did they believe or did they not believe? Manavshach. If they believe, then they have nothing to scream about. Why are they crying to Hashem? And if they don't believe, also why are they crying to Hashem? If they believe, they don't need to. And if they don't believe, then what does it help? So that's what Rashi comes to answer with his pirush. This whole parsha doesn't make sense, and in the process, Rashi answers the question of how it fits into the psukim later. And that's what Rashi is saying. But Yitzhak tofsu umanos avesam, that all other cases of tefillah we said by the Yaves, they were davening for something. Either Avram was making a request. There was Bakashat Tzrachav, and he was asking Hashem to save Stem. Yitzchok was asking for children for Rivka, and Yaakov was davening that he should be saved from Esav. So this is a certain type of tefillah. This is a tefillah you have to do. Kiviyachos. The Rambam says that the union of tefillah midiraisa is Bakashat Tzrachav. So when a person either has a need or there's a special reason that we see from other psukim earlier, that when they were given a good basura, when Avram was given a good basura, so then he also thanked Hashem because of the special nature of what was being done. However, there's another dimension of tefillah, and that's the Bechal Yin from Umnes, that this is what Yidden do, and this is what our Avos did. They davened even there was no special purpose. When it came over there, it was already after the Ma'aseh Muslim. There was nothing to do. And when he came out of Makam Asheram Macham, he went over there to daven. Stam to daven. He went over there to daven because that's what a Jew does. He davens. And so to Lasuach Pesadi, he wasn't davening for anything in particular. Yitzchak went to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so for Yivka B'Makam, that it was such a holy place. I should daven there, Yaakov Avinu said. But it wasn't a bakasha like other cases of tefillah. And that's why, although it seems that these psukim seem to be so not characteristic of the whole idea of tefillah, Adarabah, that's the whole point that Rashi is trying to tell us. And that's also the union of umnus, that it's their profession, that Yidden, that's what they do, and that's what they daven. And Nacha Bilti Muga, it's down the Muga de Sicha. The Rebbe teaches up the union of umnus, is a hainu shebazeh chayes v'geshmak shalei, that that's the chayes, and that's the geshmak, what a Yid enjoys to do, a Yid enjoys to daven. So therefore, the questions are all answered. Both how the psukim fit in about the apparent contradiction between pasuk Yud and later on the miman of shach. Why are they davening if they believe? They believe, but they weren't davening as crying out to Hashem. They were davening because it was time to daven, so they davened. And so too, we understand why it needs to be explained over here. Unlike the beginning in Perek Beis in Shmeis, because over there the Yidden were davening for their needs. Explains the Lashon Umnes, and explains what the question is. So all the questions of the Sicha are answered. At the end, the Rebbe brings a Rola Maisa, two different lessons that we can derive in our daily service of Hashem. One is that just that we see that the davening was not for a particular purpose, it was lishma, for the sake of davening. Skashus HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So too, that a Yid, when it comes time to limud Torah, he doesn't have to learn just, he needs to know what to do, so he opens up a sefer because he has to find out what it is he's supposed to be doing. No, he learns Torah because you're supposed to learn Torah. And so to the infant tefillah, in order to connect ourselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so that's why we have the inyan tefillah, we do it lishma. And so too, regarding Azulis, regarding another Yid, you don't see necessarily that he's davening, and you don't necessarily see that he's learning, but you should know that he's part of the Am Yisrael, that he's also children of the Aves, and therefore he has this umness, he has this inner trait, this inner characteristic of a desire to connect himself with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore he should be related to as such.